Hey guys, picking up where I left off from tutorial 1, this is tutorial 2. It's going to be much shorter than the first one because the majority of the shader work has already been explained. I'm just going to explain a little bit about my process in making the city skyline, the actual table itself, and the planes that fly across. Um, so I'm not going to go too much into how that's all set up in the material editor. I'm just going to give you some tips and tricks. So, starting this off is for the city, all I decided to do was model out a very basic silhouettes of buildings and different structures that I think would be interesting. So I can show you what that looks like here. So yeah, as you can see, very simple, not too complex, just basic squares. One of the things that's important to recognize with holograms is how they turn on and turn off, or just in general, how the sort of uh, shader itself is going to work. And when I say that, I'm going to zoom in here for a second. So you can kind of see the little ripples, how they go vertical. Now, that's all going to be dependent on what your UVs look like. So what you have to do is if these are going vertical, your UVs have to be closer to the bottom of your texture sheet, the 0 to 1 space, the UV grid, whichever you want to call it. And again, depending on how it turns on and turns off, which direction you go will depend on where you and how you place your UVs. So when I open this up, turn it on and off, it starts from the bottom like this, and it goes towards the top. Now, I realized that, say, like at this level here, my idea was not to have these be lit right here at the same time because this top part isn't even there yet. Again, that's all in the UV placement. So if I had placed these a little bit more towards the top, then it would have reacted better. But I decided it was okay and completed, and pretty much done for what it needed to do. So that's basically all that is. And you just plug that into the matinee, which I'll show in the next video. That one's going to be a little longer than this one, so I'm just going to save it for that. The planes, it's the exact same texture, just colored differently. So it's the same basic things as the other shaders with the power, the wave. Again, here's that hologram lines that I created, just black and white lines hooked in with a panner. That's what's causing that sort of flicker. That's what these are on there. Now, one thing I will cover as well, real quick, is instancing materials. Uh, the way and reason you do that is so you can change them on the fly. So that's when you open up this little box here. And you have all these different parameters, sort of like I mentioned in the first video. I can change these colors in real time, and the great thing about that too is you actually get to change that via the matinee or even the blueprints. But I'm not really going to go into blueprints. It's just going to be matinee stuff for the animation and whatnot. But all you do is, let's see, let me find it here. So what you do is, so I have the table. So you make this material, and the material be over in your space here. And what you do is you right click on it, and it'll say create material instance. Now, a lot of times I will forget to add the material instance to the object versus the actual material itself. So sometimes, like, you see how these materials aren't showing up, they're just like little white specks. That's because it has that power option on it. and it's technically turned off in this. So then when you have the actual material instance, you add that to the mesh instead. So that's why it's very, very important to stay organized. So I have like all my material instances here, and you can actually see them here as well. It's a long list, lots of various things. My naming convention kind of got out of hand because I was just adding more things, adding more ideas, and just, said the hell with it. But anyway, you'll also notice this is one thing I was going to talk about as well. And it's very important for when you're animating these textures, is turning them on and off. If you go to straight 0, it might not do it on this one, but sometimes there'll be a little bit of like residue of the actual like scan line mesh, or not, sorry, mesh, the material on the edges of your mesh. And that's just because it's trying to read it and it's just not further enough away. So I usually go into the negatives when I'm turning it off, and when I turn it on, it's the same thing. So if I go into the positive, just 1, you can see how it still has a little bit of the scan line here. So basically what I end up doing is you just go whatever, like 0.2, 0.1 in front of it, whatever you're comfortable with, or whatever your number stops at that time as you're sliding it. So the only thing that's different with the table than the other one is how it turns on, the gradient. So when I open up this texture, I actually have the gradient for it in the alpha channel. So I did a nice white to gray, just so I could get that nice even gradient and a nice blend between turning it on and turning it off. And that's the only difference from the table than the other screens. If I wanted this to turn on, so say it's off, and then I wanted it to turn on and start from the middle and then go outwards, all I would do is invert that gradient and it would do that. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So I will explain in the next video, tutorial 3, how to do the animations via the matinee. Thank you for watching.